Alright, Department of Defense Instruction 31-15-12, August 24th, 2010. Under Secretary at INS subject open source intelligence. See enclosure 1. This instruction establishes policy assignment responsibility prescribes procedure open source intelligence, Operation Department of Defense in accordance with authority of the Department Directive 514301, reference A, responsibility pursuant, Department of Defense Directive 510521, reference B, incorporate cancel Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence Memorandum reference, confirms consistent law and presidential guidance concerning the authority responsible for the Director on National Intelligence according with Public Law 108-458, reference D, Executive Order 1233-3, reference E, Intelligence Community Directive 301, reference F, establishes DoD Open Source Council, the primary governance mechanism, DoD Open Source Intelligence. Evacuability instruction applies the Office of Secretary of Defense, Military Department's Office of the Chairman, Joint Chief of Staff, Joint Staff of the Combat Committee, with the Officer of the Inspector General of the Department of Defense, Defense Agency, DoD field activity, other organizational entity of the Department of Defense here, and referred to collective of the DoD components. See definition glossary, policy of the DoD, policy of the Department conduct of the open source intelligence activity, coordinate collaborative of the manner, pursue with a full integration, exploitation, open source intelligent purposes, guidance of the pursuit of the DoD open source intelligence shall be coordinated with the DOSC, which was DoD Open Source Council. Issue of the Director of Defense Intelligence, DoD Lead Component, Open Source Intelligence, pursuant to the reference B, Open Source and Source Intelligence, Collection, Acquisition, Exploitation, Analysis, Dissemination shall confirm with the defensive DIA. Alright, DNI, Defensive National Intelligence, Defensive Intelligence Memorandum, Defensive Open Source Council. 5, Responsibility C Enclosure 2, Procedure C Enclosure 3, Department of Defense Security Council, per, uh, reports, including all response mechanism reporting requirements for fine, referred to an inspection. Instruction does not require licensing. Reporter control symbol. According to reference 3, volume 1, DoD manual 891001, reference G, responsibilities cleared for public release. Instruction available at the Directive of the Division website, ESDWHS Mail DoD summary chain with administrative change updates. Tell Under Secretary of Defense Intelligence and in the accordance with public law of 11-16-92 reference time and administrative change according with the current senior with the office of chief of the management officer with the Department of Defense, ineffective with the date instruction effective with August 24, 2010. Thomas A. Ferguson, acting under Secretary of Defense with Intelligence. See enclosure 1 reference and DOSC glossary. Closure 1 reference under Secretary of Defense Intelligence Security Defense Directive 5105-221. Defense Intelligence Agency under Secretary of Defense Intelligence Memorandum Open Source Intelligence August 28, 2007. Public Law 108-458 Intelligent Reform Terrorism Prevention Act 2004 Executive Order 1233-3 United States Intelligence Activities Intelligence Community Directive 301 National Open Source Enterprise DoD Information Collection Manual Volume 1 891001 DoD Internal Information Collections Procedure Governing Conduct DoD Instant Intelligence Activities DoD Directive 513401 Undersecretary Acquisition Technology Logistics DoD Instruction 330502 DoD General Intelligence Training Intelligence Community Directive 201 Rules and Responsibility National Intelligence Priority Framework Title 50 United States Code Public Law 11692 National Defense Authorization Act Official Year 2020. Closure 2, Responsibility Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence, pursuant to the reference area of the establishment of the DoD Operation Open Source Intelligence policy consistent with the DoD Manual 524001, reference H, oversee the Defense Open Source Intelligence Policy Plan programs, include issuance of the policy of the DIA and with the other DoD components of open source intelligence activities, promote alignment, intelligence community, the DoD Open Source Intelligence Strategy Policy Guidelines Activities, coordinate activity conflict, open source intelligence related military intelligence program Requirement Association National Intelligence Program, oversee human capital, defense intelligence, open source, and intelligent activity staff that trained and equipped and stored with the support of the DoD Commission, fully satisfied with the need of the military department combat commands, collaboration chairman, joint chief of staff with the director of the DID, with the defense with the director of the intelligent operation coordinated set of the value with the open source intelligent plan program adequacy, responsible to support intelligent planning, provide flag rank equivalent civilian rank representative of the National Open Source Committee pursuant to the reference affidavit of the persistent of the DoD Open Source Intelligence Advisory provided flag rank equivalent civil rank representation of the Department of Security Council, director of the DIA, the director of the DID with authority, direction, and control of the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence in accordance with the reference B and H of the additional responsibility in Section 8 in the closure shall serve principal advisor of the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence regarding the DoD Open Source Intelligence, DoD Intelligence Standard of the collection, acquisition, process, exploitation, dissemination, open source, intelligence collaboration, director of the Security Council, with the director of the National Intelligence, director of guidance expected with the NOSC with the reference F, the recommended with the most efficient, effective use of the DoD with the open source and intelligent resource, identified resource with the requirements open operate with the DoD open source and intelligent resource program management capability shall with and coordinate with the DoD component defensive web with open source intelligent with source recommendations to include recommendations from the National Intelligence Plan of the MIP and clearly identify the Department developed DoD open source intelligent resource budget, manage open source intelligent resource personal programs and coordinate with the Office of Secretary of Defense Intelligence to include submitting Undersecretary of Defense of an intelligent annual consolidated program budget requirements open source intelligent related military civilian power, manpower, communication support, research development, test evaluation together and pertaining recommended adjustment of the DoD component resource for the pertaining open source intelligent represent open source intelligent activities through the ICU, the designated with the Office of Secretary of Defense Intelligence, provide flag ranking equivalent civilian ranking representation NOSC with the pursuing with the reference efforts of the designated senior official with the airman of the DOSC with the provided appropriate open source intelligence support, national intelligence support plan, issue with the Department of Defense open source intelligent operational technical guidance coordinated with the DoD component heads for the open source intelligent operations determined by the DOSC with the assess and standard open source intelligence tools and equipment process procedure with a consistent with the reference effort to eliminate unwarranted duplication open source efforts and intelligence efforts and coordinate with the heads of the DoD component open source intelligent activity programs determine the DOSC conduct the research development technical education technical evaluation meet goals of the DoD open source intelligent program coordinate with the heads of the DoD component with the open source intelligent activities program according with the DoD issue recommend the DoD open source intelligent investment with the technology program product support provide technical guidance assistant guidance of the DoD components open source intelligent investment programs to ensure that the architectural standard and interoperability between the existing DoD open source intelligent systems between national tactical systems coordinated with the head of the DoD components open source intelligent activity programs to perfect the INC components consistent open source investment technology procedure equipment resisting open source intelligent non-open source intelligent research development testing and evaluation programs established conduct maintain open source intelligent intelligence collection, exchange, and agreements with cooperative foreign governments and international organizations coordinated approve of the negotiation conclusion such programs, agreement, and agreements between the DoD components of foreign governments and international organizations or other entities. As directed by the DIOCC, evaluate open source intelligence requirement plans and adequacy representative support intelligence planning. 3. Director of National Security Intelligence, Chief Central Security Services, and DRINSA, CHS, under the authority direction of the Secretary of Defense Intelligence, applied responsibility Section 8 enclosure shall operate open source programs with support with the NSA with the authorized mission and activity that is integrated with the Department of Defense open source intelligence program and systems, provide annual report providing fiscal year with the J with the NSA open source with the program open source under Secretary of Defense Intelligence with the Director DIA November 15th each year with collaborate with the DIA, the DOSC with the optimize with the DoD open source with intelligent resources, provide appropriate representation NOSC with the pursuit of the reference with appropriate representation DOSC with the Director of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency with the Director of the National Geospatial Agency with under authority direction control of the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence Additional Responsibility Section 8 enclosure shall Operate open source program to support with the NGA, National Geospatial Agency, with the authorized mission and activity integrated with the Department of Defense Open Source Intelligence Program Systems. By a report previous official year of the state with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency Open Source under the Secretary of Intelligence Directive of the DIA was only of November 15th each year. Liberate DIA, DOSC, optimize DOD, and operate open source intelligence resource, provide appropriate representation in OSC, pursuant with a reference F, appropriate representation in DOSC, Undersecretary of Defense for the Acquisition of Technology Logistics, according to the Department of Defense Directive 513401, reference I, shall establish policy and acquisition DOD for open source intelligence system coordinated with the DNI and U.S. Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence Secretary of the Military Department, Chairman of Joint Chief of the Staff, and others as appropriate. Develop, maintain DoD science, so the technology investment strategy support with the development, acquisition, integration, and technology advance, providing open source intelligence meet requirements. Military Department manage, provide, promote, provide DoD specifically technical information program, resource, product, service, support DoD open source activities, can coordinate with the DIA with the new activity of the program, providing with the open source intelligence service purpose with the DIA guidance compliance with the open source intelligence standards, or provide appropriate representation of DOSC. Department of Chief Information Officer, the DoD Chief of Information Officer, provide with the Undersecretary of Defense of Intelligence, policy, and pursue the acquisition management of the DoD open source intelligence system, provide interoperability standardization in order to promote the sharing of the open source intelligence. Department of Defense, federal department, agency of the state and local with tribal law and authority enforcement authorities, provide appropriate regulation to DOSC. DoD Senior Internal Intelligence Oversight Official of the DoD and Senior Intelligence Oversight Official shall inspect the DoD Open Source Intelligence Program and Intelligence Oversight Compliance Activity. Head of the DoD components operate open source intelligence activities in the program. Head of the DoD components open source intelligence activities and program shall assign with the responsibility established procedure of the appropriate role of the organization implement the instructions identify open source intelligence activity programs organization unified with a streamlined open source intelligence activity coordinated collaborative open source intelligence collection acquisition analysis operations production dissemination coordinated with the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence Director DIA proposing open source intelligence investment activity programs open source intelligence provide Undersecretary of Defense and Intelligence the Director of the DIA proposed plan programs that budget with open source intelligence activity facilitates a mission coordinated with the DoD wide open source intelligence resource program and budget coordinated with the Director of DIA coordinating research development technical testing and evaluation meet open source intelligence needs. Provide information military department of the open source intelligence research development testing and evaluation activity DOSC accomplish DoD's specifically open source intelligence research development testing and evaluation come with the DoD direction and guidance. Secretary of Military Departments for the Secretary of Military Departments according with responsibility Section 8 enclosure shall plan program open source intelligence resource cognizance official policy guidelines of shall Secretary of Department Deputy Secretary of Defense Under Secretary of Defense and intelligence program guidance from Under Secretary of Defense and Intelligence provide appropriate representation of DOSC coordinate open source intelligence and program activity DOS through the DOSC and the DIA as appropriate provide personal perform assign open source intelligence mission in accordance with the approved requirement procedure, operate and maintain open source intelligence activity, research, conduct, support open source intelligence operations authorized directed with the Secretary of the Department, Secretary of Defense, or Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence, including military reserve component programs to meet emergency and wartime requirements of open source intelligence resource. Coordinate, plan, program, coordinate, conduct open source intelligence training per specific need with the DoD missions according with the DoD Instruction 330502, reference J, coordinate with the Director DIA. Management, open source intelligence requirements and support with the DoD data collection analysis, dissemination director DIA 7, Chairman Joint Chief of the Staff, the Chairman Joint Chief of the Staff of the Nation with responsibility Section 80 with enclosure show the line representing the open source intelligence support military requirement, make recommendations, Secretary of Defense with the vibe of the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence with the Director of the DIA with the reach over the open source special open source intelligence program and activity system support with the combat commands, validate joint department open source intelligence system requirements through appropriate DoD joint staff process. maintain joint doctrine over the core support over the related open source instruction and open source intelligent capability joint operation coordinate undersecretary of defense intelligence new activity program providing open source intelligence as are proposed supporting open source intelligence collection and production requirement of the director DIA as of the director DIOCC bigger processing validation as appropriate to undersecretary of defense director DIA with the staff of the combat command with the open source intelligence resource with the annual report previous fiscal year now live in December 15th to each year with the provide appropriate representation DOSC. Commander of the Combat Command of the Commander of the Combat Command Edition, roughly Section 8 enclosure shells secure support unified open source intelligence activity coordinated with the collaborating open source intelligence collection, acquisition, analysis, operation, production, dissemination, provide appropriate representation DOSC. Submit Chairman and Joint Chief of the Staff of the requirement of the military open source intelligence platform units of the RAS of the operation control of the attached military platform units, other assets that have the open source intelligence capabilities in accordance with the established receive of the supplemental instruction issued with the Chairman, Joint Chief of the Staff. Praise over the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence with a report of the DIA staff of the Combat Command with the Open Source Intelligence resource of the annual report previously fiscal year submitted by the Chairman, Joint Chief of the Staff of the no later than 31st of each year. Closure 3, the DOSC. Purpose of the DOSC with a provide governance mechanism of the DoD and operate open source intelligence shall serve with a form and coordinate with the facilitation DoD open source intelligence activities program. DOSC shall provide with a report on Secretary of Defense intelligence open source intelligence issue the recommended initiative with the improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the DoD open source intelligence program activities in the system. Membership: the chair of the senior executive designated with the director of the DIA, setting members flank and flag ranking equivalent civilian rank representative provided with the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence Appropriate Representation Director, DRA and SACHSCC, Director of National Geospatial Agency, Undersecretary of Defense Acquisition Technology Logistics, DoD's Chief Information Officer, Secretary of Military Departments, Commander of the Combat Command, ex officio participant officer of the DNIA, responsible to the DOSC shall coordinate activities to resolve the issue with the DoD open source intelligence program activity, coordinate recommendations of activities to NOSC with the proprietor of the open source and intelligence subject. The same of the requirement consistent with ISCD 204 reference K established strategy guide full range DoD open source intelligence efforts. Establish performance metrics to track level of familiarity with DoD open source intelligence purpose of goals, policy goals, support, resource requirement, and recommendations, self-working groups needed to facilitate coordinating with the execution of specific program and draft the DoD open source and inspection needs. Submit open source and intelligence status report for previous fiscal year with the Undersecretary of Defense Intelligence no later than February 28th of each year. The report shall address an assessment of the DoD open source intelligence program activity status run with the DoD policy, validate joint requirements, include performance metrics information, issue current hinder of the effectiveness of DoD open source intelligence program activity system and integration DoD-wide national program activity system priorities recommendation concerning policy change over the initiative needed to provide the DoD open source intelligence program activities and systems. Or glossary term CSS, Central Security Service, DIA, Defensive Intelligence, DIOCC, Defensive Intelligence Operation Coordination Center, Director of National Security Agency, Chief Central Security Services, Director of National Intelligence, DoD, Chief of Information Officer, DoD Directive, DoD Open Source Council, Intelligence Community Director, Military Intelligence Program, National Geospatial Intelligence, National Intelligence Program, National Open Source Committee, National Security Agency, Open Source Intelligence Research Development Testing Evaluation, Under Secretary of Defense of Acquisition Technology and Logistics, Under Secretary of Defense Intelligence and Security Part 2 definitions, and we'll skip there. And then this is the reading of Open Source Intelligence Department of Defense instruction.